Governor J.B. Pritzker sounding off on national and international issues, but also asked about some policy concerns amid a push to try to keep the Bears in the land of Lincoln. It is Illinois in Focus. I'm Greg Bishop, your host. Don't forget, we're going to be part of the Center Square Daily beginning Monday moving forward, and you'll find it right here with the Center Square. All right, so get to the headlines at thecentersquare.com. Easy to do. Go to the website, sign up for newsletter. You can get these headlines and so many more at thecentersquare.com. So get that in your inbox. But let's hear what Governor J.B. Pritzker had to say yesterday at an unrelated news conference here in Springfield. He was in front of cameras, taking questions, and it was right as word came out that Kristi Noem was being reassigned by the White House from Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security to a new post that more details are coming out. But here's Governor Pritzker, who's been very critical of Kristi Noem, reacting to that news.
Well, she shouldn't let the door hit her on the way out, and it's frankly not too soon. I hope that her replacement, who I guess was named at the same time, does a better job. It's a pretty low bar. Frankly, we saw shootings and we saw breaking the law. We saw corruption under Kristi Noem, and so not sure you could do worse.
And the governor long having said that Kristi Noem needs to step down. Be interesting to see what this means for the ongoing negotiations to get funding for DHS, because keep in mind, we're still 3-4 weeks going on into a partial government shutdown where DHS is not getting paid. That's Transportation Security Administration, that's Coast Guard, that's Secret Service, all essential jobs, people still showing up to the job. They're not able to get a paycheck from DHS because there's a partial government shutdown. They haven't agreed in Congress on that funding, as Democrats say that there needs to be reforms to ICE. Is this a concession? Again, you can look into the palace intrigue all day long over in Washington, D.C., Governor J.B. Pritzker being asked about it here in Illinois. But Governor Pritzker not just always seeming to sound off on national issues, he also is reacting to international issues, and had this to say when asked about the ongoing military operations in Iran.
Well, my deep concern, of course, stems back to the fact that they didn't seek congressional authorization, because if they had, the Congress would have demanded to know, what is the end game? How do we get from here to reaching the goal? And by the way, what is the goal? They still have been very unclear about whether it's about regime change, whether it's about following what the Israelis did and being a kind of an also-ran for the Israelis, what exactly the purpose is. So I'm concerned because we have men and women of our armed forces, Illinoisans, I might add, National Guardsmen and women from Illinois who are already there, and some that have been called up. We ought to know. We ought to know the answer to that, and we ought to know how this is going to end, what the plan was to start with, and how we're going to get to reach the goal that should have been set out from the beginning, but it wasn't.
And Governor J.B. Pritzker being asked about international conflicts, and obviously the question coming from a member of the media, he did talk about Illinois in particular, possible guard troops being involved in this, but the governor being asked by media about Iran. Kind of interesting when there's a lot of issues in Illinois that need to be dealt with as well. But the governor did also talk briefly about his insistence that the White House work to get any Illinoisans that are in the Middle East out of the Middle East. He says that he has yet to see if that's actually work in progress. So they're trying to communicate in lower levels within the Department of State to try to get Illinoisans out of the Middle East as that ongoing Iranian military operations the U.S. is conducting continue. But the governor also asked about mega projects and how the mega projects are possibly going to impact taxpayers. And this is the idea of bringing in the tax breaks, local property tax breaks, sales tax breaks for companies that want to spend $1 billion to renovate an entire complex or acres and acres and acres to have a big development. The idea of a mega project bill advancing out of the House in Illinois. This as the Indiana legislature passed a bill to try to coax the Chicago Bears to come to Indiana. Illinois, seeing that happen and the Bears indicating, hey, this looks good, They're working to get their incentives in place. And the incentives that Illinois is looking at would give local officials the ability to carve out, property tax breaks and sales tax breaks and things like that. But the concern there is that's going to leave other taxpayers on the hook. That's going to leave other taxpayers having to foot the bill. Here's what the governor had to say about the mega projects idea that's advancing at the Illinois State House. And some are saying is really just a mega deal for the Chicago Bears.
It should not and will not, and is not intended to raise anybody's property taxes. The idea is, as you know, when you have a property anywhere in the state of Illinois that isn't being used now, and therefore we're not seeing the property taxes coming from it that should, if you had development on a property, you want to make sure that you're bringing development and that there is an end game for the local governments and schools and parks and libraries to be able to get the property taxes that would normally come from the development of a property that is as yet undeveloped. So again, the clear goal here is to bring development that didn't already exist to a property that isn't yielding enough property taxes so that at the end of a period of time, they are actually paying property taxes in full.
So again, we're in spring session. The Senate was in for several days this week. They're in next week. And then both chambers come back the following week. And then they have both chambers off the last few days of March, first few days of April. You've got Easter, and then another chamber comes back. So we're getting ready to get into a season where a lot of policy is going to be coming up, all right? And the mega projects issue about getting the Chicago Bears to stay in Illinois, in Chicago, or Arlington Heights, that obviously is going to be something we're going to hear more about. So that's going to be a developing story. And the impacts on taxpayers, right? Because, again, if you have taxpayers that are footing the bill to allow for a mega project to come in to not have to pay taxes, you can see how that could cause some problems. But the governor also yesterday asked about minimum wage. Now, remember, the governor, he came into office in 2019. The first thing he signed was a minimum wage increase, and it was a phased-in increase to increase $1 a year into 2020. I believe that it became $15 an hour. I'll have to look at that trajectory again, but it just recently became, it was 2025 when it was $15 an hour. So we get to that year, and each year before that, it went up $1. So now it's $15 an hour, and the law is done. It's every year that it was supposed to increase, it increased. So the governor was asked again yesterday, well, what about the minimum wage? Should it be increased?
Very important that we raise the minimum wage. I believe that we need to have a living wage for people, and it's something that we always ought to be considering. How do we put more money in people's pockets? You want to make life more affordable for people, help them get a raise.
Well, some may say if you want to make life more affordable for people in Illinois, lower taxes. At least that's what Republicans have been saying time and again, year after year. But of course, they're in the super minority of the state house. And Wallet Hub just came out with a story, a survey showing that Illinois had the highest tax rates. So you're looking at high property taxes, you're looking at high sales taxes, the gas tax is second highest in the country, highest in the region. So, affordability obviously is a big thing in this election year. Is it, wages or, how do taxes play into that? These obviously are ongoing questions. But other policies being discussed at the State House, and this came up earlier this week, and I just wanted to get it out there in front of you. It involves the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program and the subsidies that go to those who need help get the food they need on their family's table. SNAP, right? And those little cards that SNAP recipients get. No surprise, Illinois' error rate in SNAP is 11+%, and if they don't get it down to below 6% for the overpayment and underpayment, which is mostly overpayments, of that error rate, then Illinois taxpayers are going to have to pay more. But there's an effort here to try to combat fraud and SNAP card data being stolen and then sold. During a Senate hearing earlier this week, you had an advocate for a chip card to be implemented at the State House. So it essentially take these simple magnetic strip cards of SNAP and implement a chip card, because SNAP's federally taxpayer funded, but the states administer it. So Illinois administers the Illinois SNAP program funded by federal tax dollars. Those dollars, there's a 11% error rate. All right, so mostly of that's overpayments. What about the potential fraud? What about the theft that can happen? Well, the idea is make the cards more secure, have a chip there. That's going to have some cost, though. Here's the little bit of back and forth.
California experienced the impact of adopting chip cards firsthand. After rolling out chip cards statewide in early 2025 for their EBT program, the reported losses from stolen EBT benefits dropped from about $21 million a month to under $4 million a month. That is a whopping 83% reduction in 1 year.
Are they scammed off onto, and they create a different SNAP card, and then is that different SNAP card sold to somebody?
Yes, so the information that is stolen could be easily put on a clone card because these are very simple max type cards, like your gift cards, where the information could be put back on a max stripe, and then that information is used to do transactions, fraudulent transactions, and account is taken over or money is taken out through various fraud mechanisms.
Okay. How many people then have been prosecuted for that for the last couple of years?
Senator, I don't have the exact number of how many people have been prosecuted, but as part of the vendor education, when these operations take place, the agencies taking part in those operations educate the vendors. These skimmer devices, they are snap-on devices. The fraudsters, sometimes it does not even take 2 seconds to snap on a device and then be taken in as less a time.
The idea being that you've got these devices that kind of fit over where people put in debit cards to swipe, and then the scammer will go and grab that device and it's got all these numbers loaded into it, and then they can assign those numbers elsewhere. Well, if it's a Snap card, then that's a different type of fraud, right? Because then you're taking from the taxpayer, and then you're taking those dollars away from somebody who really needs those dollars, and then it becomes a problem. So how do you rectify those simple magnetic strip cards to get chip cards? Well, it's going to have a monthly cost, especially if you're going to vendor a company that does this for you in the state of Illinois, considering doing that. What's the extra cost on top of the millions of dollars it's probably going to take to get a contract with this chip card company? Well, it's going to cost taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars just to maintain per month.
The monthly expense of maintaining this system after it's the initial upset of it is $600,000 to $800,000. Is that in addition to what is already being spent each month by DHS, or does this include the entire monthly cost? Do you see what I'm saying? Is this new money, or is this we're already spending some anyway?
This is a new money, and that is approximately, as you have, $350,000 a month, and that is to cover the cost of the cards that are replaced every month. And this is when people lose cards or they have their cards stolen. There are replacement cards, and this expense is reflecting the replacement of the cards and the running of the EMV system, the maintenance cost of that system.
We'll see if that process continues to unfold as they discuss more about SNAP. And is anybody going to address the SNAP error rate in these conversations and how this could help with the SNAP error rate? We'll be watching closely. And that is what we do for you for the Center Square and Illinois in Focus. Again, Illinois in Focus, soon to be part of the Center Square Daily, where you can find us every day. Only with the Center Square.